Kids may not know why seatbelts are important, but parents oftentimes do. But in this scenario, even the parents are thinking about their peanuts and their hot dogs, and it's so upsetting.
Hey everyone, thanks again for coming back to another edition of Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. I'm Jordan Scott, founder of Foul Ball Safety Now, foulballsafetynow.com. I'm here with my co-host Brianna Ludwig, and as people know, tuning in, they are hearing guests come on and bring us questions. We've had interesting guests in the last few weeks, and we have interesting guests coming up very soon as well. Before we bring on our interesting guest, I want to talk about some news. This past weekend, just watching the Sunday night playoff game between Seattle and Detroit, I saw something which was pretty shocking. So I want to share it with you all. I'm watching the game. I see a broken bat, which I've seen before, and the bat went behind the batter towards a part of the ballpark. I couldn't see at the time because the camera wasn't showing where the broken bat had gone. 3 minutes later, a few minutes later, when they went to commercial during a pitching change, they actually showed the bat flying into the seats from the seating perspective. So you actually saw a broken bat flying in like a spear into the seats. And you heard the announcer saying on top of the video, "Yikes, look out." So that was finally telling America all together in a big moment, because it was a big game and millions of people are watching it, that spears are coming into the seats at high speeds. And why would that be business as usual in 2025? We're not in the Stone Ages where maybe sometimes these things could have been part of regular life. We're in the year 25, and I'm not sure why this could be a thing. Why would this be business as usual? But it is, and it's something we need to address. There are other examples that I have on video from 2025 of bats flying into seats, right over the nets and right into the seats. Bats. Sometimes we see insurance commercials during the summer that show bats flying into windows and breaking them. This one familiar face, this actor who does commercials, you see him a lot on these insurance commercials. So during baseball season, they usually have baseball themed accidents or incidents. So he's on a baseball field and he throws the bat and it goes over the fence into the parking lot and into the window, and it makes a boom, a broken window. So that visual is probably in rotation right now on the commercials. So that being said, we're following an investigation in Queens College, which if people go to the website Foul Ball Safety Now, they'll see letters we've written to the Queens College administration. It's listed under Queens College investigation, where a student athlete contacted me a while back and was concerned because the student athletes are playing baseball on a field right next to an elementary school. And these guys are concerned that their balls in practice or during games can reach the campus outside the field where the public school is also situated and where the students are hanging around. Why are their students, potentially being hit by foul balls? We know of one situation in Modesto, California, where a lawyer found me a few months back and told us about an upcoming trial where unfortunately a woman was outside the ballpark, similar to Queens College, where they're concerned about hitting balls outside the ballpark. She was outside the ballpark waiting to go in, and unfortunately, she was struck by a ball during batting practice, and apparently she can't work anymore. We learned in that situation that the lawyer was preparing for trial, and then we found out late in the summer that she got a settlement. But those details sometimes can't be discussed. And I think the people in Modesto would have appreciated knowing maybe for 2 years that there could have been balls raining on them in the parking lot or by the gate outside. But I don't think there was any public notification to the fans in Modesto that from the time the woman got hurt in July of 23 till the time the case was settled in July of 25, maybe they should be more walking around with umbrellas of some kind because it could be 15 balls flying outside, hitting pavements, windows, in this case, this woman's head. Within a 3-hour period, it could be 10 or 15 of those balls raining on the streets. And it's not that unique that in colleges or these professional ballparks, 169 of them, that they all require further examination about where the fans should be and where they should be situated inside and outside the ballpark. Worthy of a conversation, worthy of presenting to all the 80 million baseball fans so they can figure out themselves how they want to rethink their memories about going to games feeling informed or not, going to games today feeling they know enough so they're in the right place. That's what we're doing because we feel like the establishment has not been doing that at all in any way that's satisfactory. We're healthy aggression here at Foul Ball Safety now. We follow the news, working with journalist Brendan now for 6 years and working with my co-host Brianna on a lot of other things for about a year. We believe this new platform will be an opportunity for people from all perspectives to come in and share, whether it be their professional perspective or their personal perspective or just their curiosity perspective. So I want to bring on our guest, but before we do that, I want to bring on my co-host Brianna Ludwig, who can say hello and also bring on our guest. Hi, Brianna. How are you?
I'm good, Jordan. I'm very excited to get into this conversation today and shed some light on this important issue. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest, Rob Passon. He is an actor and IT salesman. Rob, how are you?
Hey, I am doing great. Thanks for having me, Brianna and Jordan. I appreciate it. And I'm a software
Terrific.
exec for a large global software company. We'll keep them unnamed now. But yes, this is a very important topic, and I appreciate you guys inviting me to ask some questions and engage a little. So, as a person who's been, going to baseball games since I was in my youth, and someone who's aware of the different rules and laws in society, how is it, do you think, that such an important rule that protects the baseball organization from any litigation, how is it that a law like this actually can stay in place for so many years? That's the thing that is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it is state by state, but most of the states do recognize the baseball rules. So it is a deterrent for people when they are hurt to even find a lawyer. Most lawyers don't want to invest 20 or 30 hours worth of work and not get their case to be even heard. But this has been a rule in place for more than 100 years. And when people take a simple Google of the baseball rule, it will give you an explanation in writing that this more or less protects the owners of these establishments, all of these professional clubs, even in colleges, the administrations, the college administrations, and the schools from being responsible that if somebody gets injured inside the ballpark by a flying object, sometimes it's not just the baseball, it could be a baseball bat inside or outside, that the teams will not be held responsible. So, unfortunately, that information isn't really imparted to the fan base in a satisfactory way. I wish they were informing all of us for years because I feel more the agencies would have been more hands on if they had. And I feel like it's not too late I feel like if some of these agencies learn what I believe they should have learned, their official response is we should have been on this scene years and years ago, whether it be child protection, whether it be consumer protection.
I gotta say, I'm amazed because I've been going to South Florida baseball games since I was a child, and I'm in my late 50s, and
Mhm,
a lot of sporting events, all of them. And I consider myself a smart person who's conscientious with my children,
mhm,
and yet when I look at the stadiums, even the games I went to recently, sitting behind home plate, there's only a certain degree of protection, and I'm just wondering, does this in different stadiums, are there adequate seating spots for people that are concerned with their safety? I don't recall ever seeing a disclaimer or anything warning me on anything
mhm,
at all. Can you
mhm.
address that at all? Because 'Cause I'm just sitting here
Sure.
wondering how it is I brought my kids into the back of a baseball game where I'm watching balls fly backwards, and I didn't even think about it. Are there spots where we can sit safely? I mean,
That's that's a great question, and unfortunately, I personally can't endorse any part of the ballpark, and if I did, all I would be doing was saying, "This is the least chances of you getting hurt. That's the best I could offer you, but I can't
right.
guarantee you anything." But I believe this information should have been imparted long before you got to the game, because once you do get to the game, and even if there are warnings on the scoreboard or even by your cup holder directly in front of you and your children, what are you going to do now that
Too
you're
late.
there? We're not superheroes, the last I
Yeah, it's
remember.
too late.
We're there already, and most people are saying, "Oh, there's a sign here." What Major League Baseball and these professional clubs could have done, should have done for over, 100 years, certainly since a 14-year-old boy died at Dodger Stadium in 1970, was to tell you more or less what we can all expect in the spring and the summer based on what we learned from the previous season. And when people
Yeah,
go to the Exhibit A, not just a 5-minute video, but the Exhibit A1, which is a demonstration from professional baseball, Brendan and I, the journalist I've been with 6 years, took a look at something called the 538 report from 2019, and we came at it this year, and we have our own version updated 538 report, which demonstrates just how many foul balls are coming every season. It's almost like a chart that you can find out for yourself. All of those experiences, which fortunately you got through, but you realized so many people didn't get through, meaning
no,
somebody who sat in that seat the day before or day after you did may not have had it so good. And we want people to kind of figure that out for themselves. Baseball knows the bottom line exactly how many of those 350,000 came at warp speed and what seed it may have hit. That's what we want
yeah,
people to do. Ask. Let's just find out bottom line. How many were there? Just tell us already, so at least we could rethink how our past experiences were and decide how we want to remember them. Do that
which
for
would
us, won't you? Something
totally.
like that. We want that information to finally be addressed, put on the table, and maybe that'll bring recognition or reconciliation to the victims that Brendan and I have met along the way.
No, just a lot of families are taking their children to games, and it's because the MLB is marketing itself as a family experience, openly marketing towards children, even with the advanced knowledge that they have of how many kids have been seriously or critically injured due to foul balls. So, with what I know, I've been working on this campaign for over a year. I would never take my son to a game. I just know too much. It would be unethical at that point. And for me, until we can guarantee safety, I won't be going, even if one section has a lower risk than the other. With what I've seen and how intimate I've been with these victims and their stories. It's just not worth the risk for me. But the problem is that so many Americans aren't informed on this matter, and the MLB isn't helping by putting out that public persona. I mean, what other sport can you think of? What other major sport that is marketing so hard towards families and a wholesome experience at the ballpark? Like,
It's an outrage, truly, and it's something should be done to change exactly what you guys are talking about here. I'm curious. I was once at a game. I didn't see what happened, and I assumed, and that was my mistake, was making the assumption that everyone was okay, which I think most people do. My thoughts are around right now. I saw a child looked like got hit, a young child by a line drive that went across and out of bounds out at the third baseline.
Right.
And I wondered about it, and then, yes, it's sad because we all just got back to the game,
Right.
and you see people huddling in the corner, and then you hear nothing about it afterwards. You do see athletes that seem sad. I guess my question is, how do the athletes feel? Or can they just do we even know, or can they not even speak against their employer? Because you see them look like, "Oh my god, I just might have
Yeah.
like, what just happened?"
Yeah.
Uh,
They will react in the time after the game maybe and be sad, and there may be some moments where they say things like, "Just put some nets around the stadium," but I don't believe the union, the baseball players union, has really taken this on the way they should have, because they certainly can make it non-negotiable for their rank and file, because these guys are human beings who don't want to experience those situations and hurt people. And even in the Queens College matter, the 20-year-old or however old he is who called me, the Queens College student athlete, he is concerned about going on the record because he says to me, quote, "I don't want my unborn child in 20 years being blackballed from playing baseball." I said, "That's kinda pretty strong there," but that was his sentiment why he didn't wanna go on the record. But I did write the Queens College administration, and I got a response immediately from the athletic director, and he mentioned President Wu, WOO, that they were gonna look into it. But we're already 3 letters in. We wrote the last one from early September, and we're due to give them another one. But the NCAA, we believe they'll get involved because we're putting it right in front of them that the student athletes' psychological well-being is not being met. It's not being adhered to, I guess. So it's a clear question. Hello, these student athletes are worried about crushing elementary school kids. What are you going to do about it? So that's the way we have to paint the picture. Similar
got
to
it.
these professional baseball players who tell their own family members to sit behind the nets, but they've known for years that they could be doing serious harm. It's really,
It's
we've
sad.
interviewed 30 players. We have a sense they feel some sort of regret or remorse from their own experiences.
Jordan, Brianna, what's the pushback on just adding some safety features? Couldn't they do something that would be, I mean, no amount of money is too much to protect the people that are paying your salaries and your fans, I would think. But couldn't they just put in some more nets or I mean, is the solution that complicated?
there's
Well,
definitely the romance aspect of catching a foul ball, and MLB has marketed that it's desired and it's a souvenir. I know occasionally there's a foul ball that if you catch or even a home run ball, sometimes it's worth a lot of money depending on who hit it and what game it is. So there's that aspect that has been a part of the tradition of baseball for over 100 years. And so sometimes hearing that the Nets going up, it sounds like an attack on tradition, but really, I mean, I always compare the fan that doesn't want the net to the toddler that doesn't want to wear a seatbelt. It seems like an inconvenience to them, but they're not aware of the risk, right? So they have no idea how much risk they're in, and these stories aren't nationally publicized unless it's a very high profile case of a young child or a death. All of these people that are having these TBIs, sometimes their life is impacted for years. It impacts their ability to socialize. They have headaches every day. Those stories are swept under the rug, you know? So that information is not out there. And there's like the lack of humanity that's connected to the victims' stories. And there's just this disconnect with the understanding of the risks.
Which was like the question that was next is why is there so little media coverage? I can't understand it.
I'll get into that with you just because we get a sense. I did an exercise with an NYU adjunct professor. We came up with this bit, more like a one-person play. So we kinda took my journey from Brooklyn when I was a kid to what the ending of the play is gonna be, which is trying to get people recognition and reconciliation. That would be the ultimate reward, knowing that people that we've interviewed, people who've lost eyes. We've interviewed, unfortunately, um, Rick lost an eye and Jenny lost an eye, and we interviewed those guys. We also interviewed Irwin, whose wife was killed at the Dodger game in 2018, and we just got a sense that these people's stories need to be heard, and we want the recognition for these people that it's long overdue. Unfortunately, the media, we address that in our bit, in our play. The publishers of the newspapers, as we all know, growing up, newspaper sports pages dominates a lot of the newspaper. And I don't believe the publishers want their editors having their writers who cover the teams like the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees to go too deep into the foul ball issue. You're not going to see week-long series in the newspaper about foul ball discoveries and information that would be sending sending alarm bells, to MLB and management saying, "Oh, okay, the fans are figuring this out now." They don't really want that. They want to preserve the status quo as wholesome apple pie. It's not good for business. We address the broadcasters of not really getting together rank and file style, saying enough is enough. Unfortunately, there's a lot of media there. There's a lot of sports writers who all went to journalism school. They're not investigative reporters. They're covering sports for their newspapers, but it's usually the individual teams. So they're not going too deep into this issue. And I think shame on them for not stepping up sooner. They could have told this story. And unfortunately, there's only a few articles, a few individuals, but you don't see any long pieces in the Atlantic or the New Yorker. Because if you did, it would have to include why the writers haven't done enough up until now. They're part of the baseball industrial complex, as we put it.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely, it's a suppression of something extraordinarily important. It's like Brianna said, the kids may not know why seatbelts are important, but parents oftentimes do, and that's why we put them on the kids. But in this scenario, even the parents are thinking about their peanuts and their hot dogs, and it's so upsetting that I think what you're doing is so important. I personally, having gone so many years, would be terrified, to take the kids, realizing that there really isn't any recourse to even getting it leaves you speechless. I'm super sorry that I'm at a loss for a
No
word.
problem, Rob. It's
Uh,
we had a guest on who was similar sentiment to you. It was the love of his life, and he was hearing this, and I was almost consoling him.
oh, I
And
went to all the Yankee games as a
uh-huh,
kid.
uh-huh,
The typical my grandparents almost bought Yankee Stadium stories, and I've been
right,
to many more, a few more, but years as the year, but I always wondered about, anytime somebody's hitting you see a pitcher sometimes get hit and you think,
yeah,
well, that's part of the
yes,
risk of being a player.
right,
Um, but you really just don't connect these dots as well as they need to be connected, and
right.
I would get behind any grassroots effort. I commend you for
Appreciate
this
it.
podcast because I've seen this happen, and now I think back and realize I didn't even realize how injured these folks were being, and that there was no recourse. And I'm actually a self-professed semi-intelligent person. Like I know the laws usually. So
Sure,
let me ask you: is there
sure.
anything baseball fans and citizens can actually do to try to make a change and have something for the better?
Of
How do we
course.
make a difference?
Of course. I mean, for beginning,
How
if you're
do we?
listening, if whatever wherever your local ballpark is, you need to get together with some fans, and I'm happy to consult with you to certainly give you some fuel of the things that you can do at your local ballpark. We do have petitions at Foul Ball Safety now that people can sign. If there's any philanthropists, rich people out there, hey, I mean, I've rented out 5 airplanes, and it costs money to do those type of things. You know, those airplanes that would fly around the stadium for 2 hours before the game starts to make an announcement about "Wake up, people," you know, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So, we'll do things, we'll continue to do things, and these discussions are the beginning of a larger conversation. So, once we're heard, we hope, of course, somebody's gonna take the torch from us or spark some kind of conversation within their own community. Or who knows, maybe there'll be a lawyers group that establishes the theory. You need to get in the room. Lawyers, that's what they do. We need to show them Exhibit A, the 2019 video that shows unfortunate thread of bad things happening to kids. They'll realize this really is still a thing in professional baseball in 2025, and maybe they'll figure out how to finally get rid of this baseball rule in most states. And an act of Congress, I think, is the expression I've heard before. That stuff is all big and lofty, but we're excited to inspire the pediatricians and the lawyers to get involved. So that's what these conversations can do. Ultimately, once it's heard, it'll create an effective conversation. I think that's where we need to go. It's the 3 of us talking, and others will join in and hopefully spark a conversation within their own group, and they certainly can call us for inspiration if that's what it is.
Well, I certainly will call for inspiration, and I'll never be
Great.
able to have the conversation again without at least sharing some details.
Appreciate
You
that.
know, it just seems like a
Yes.
simple solution that wouldn't cost a lot to save a lot of people. It's pretty sad that they can't update the laws because once people get can stop hiding behind their legal liability exclusions, they start thinking with the first multi-gazillion dollar lawsuit, which does not bring back an injured child or
Right.
a dead parent or a dead
Right.
child. It
Right.
doesn't bring anything back. But with a few of those changes, they'd have to start paying attention because they wouldn't want to shell out the money. But clearly, someone's keeping them. Do they have a good lobbyist or group of people
Yeah,
making
yeah,
sure no one?
yeah, that's a longer conversation, but, what we're doing, I'm on the anti side. I'm on the side that's making sure that this conversation finds its way into the public opinion, and that's where we're at, and I'm confident that, people with deeper pockets and just general folk are gonna be curious and tune in and learn more about what we're doing at Foul Ball Safety now.
You
And,
guys are great.
wow, we appreciate that.
So, Rob, do you think that the MLB is performing safety as an actor instead of practicing it?
Performing safety is actually what they're doing because if they were practicing it, these accidents would not be happening. They would be promoting what they're bringing to the game to protect you and your family, not just the fun time, not just the hot dogs, not just the seventh inning stretch and take me to the ballpark, but make sure I don't leave in a stretcher or worse. So they are acting. If they are pretending, that these are safe places for families to be with balls and bats and all kinds of things traveling at, we know what speeds these people pitch at, we know what they hit at, and those are missiles. And clearly, for now 50 years, we've had deaths, and there's no question Major League Baseball needs to step up and start taking care of their fans before they don't have any.
Terrific.
Thanks
Well,
for having
guys,
me on.
well, Rob, we really appreciate it. And we want everyone to keep coming back because we'll have interesting guests from different perspectives every week. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in this week at Foul Ball Safety Now, and talk to you soon.